ancient Chinese legend of a poor old farmer and his only son. One night the old man's horse escaped. When they heard the news, his friends came to comfort him in his loss. "How do you know this is a bad thing?" he asked them. Several days later, the horse returned with a whole herd of wild horses. Now the old man's friends came to congratulate him for his good fortune. But the old man said, "How do you know this is a bad thing?" While the son was trying to tame one of the wild horses, he was thrown and broke his leg. Again, the old man's friends gathered to bemoan this new misfortune, but the old man asked, "How do you know this is a bad thing?" Soon a warlord came to recruit able-bodied youth for his army, and the farmer's son escaped conscription because of his broken leg. In true fashion, the farmer's friends came and expressed their pleasure over the man's good luck. "How do you know this is a good thing?" he asked. How do we know when something is good? How do we know when something is bad? I suppose it often depends on what color the lenses are in the glasses that we are wearing at the time. I'm not talking about the kind of glasses that some of us wear to correct our vision. I'm talking about those judgment glasses that we all wear to help us pass judgment on whether something is good or something is bad. The neighbors of the old Chinese farmer are not the only ones quick to pass judgment on a situation. Passing judgment is an important part of what humans do. Is that food cool enough to put in my mouth? Is that leftover spaghetti in the fridge still fresh enough for me to eat for dinner? Is the traffic clear enough on the road for me to pull out? Is there enough time for me to push that snooze button on the alarm one more time? Is the weather warm enough to finally put the snow shovel away? Our brains pass judgment thousands of times each day. Most of the judgments are either so routine or are made so quickly that we aren't even aware that there was a judgment taking place, which can be a really good thing. Take the example of whether or not the food is cool enough to put in our mouth. Think of how long each meal would take if before each and every bite we had to weigh that judgment as to whether the food was cool enough to put in our mouths. We might spend a little more time thinking about those first few bites that we take, but after that, the decision is pretty automatic. Sometimes, however, the situation is not quite as clear or easy and requires us to use more than just our human eyes before a judgment can be made. Our lesson today from 1 Samuel and our gospel lesson from John have several examples of this type of situation. In 1 Samuel, God has asked Samuel to go anoint the one who is to succeed Saul as king. As Jesse's sons pass before Samuel, he looks at the outward appearance of each one and rushes to a judgment. Tall, handsome, strong, this must be the one. To each of Samuel's judgments, God answers no, not this one. Jesse and his sons have also been making judgments. The youngest son, David, was judged so young, small, and unimportant, they didn't even call him in from the fields. In our gospel lesson, we hear that at the blind man's birth, his entire community had rushed to a judgment. Whether it was the mother, or the father, or the man himself, surely someone had committed a great sin. Jesus' disciples agreed. Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Later, the Pharisees find that Jesus had healed this man on the Sabbath, so they immediately conclude Jesus can't be from God. After all, he violated one of the most important commandments by working on the Sabbath day. The man who has been healed also jumps to a conclusion. There can be only one reason all these people want to hear me tell this story again and again. They want to be disciples of Jesus too. Man, that was a wrong judgment. It is then, however, that the man who had been healed makes his first filled with the light of Christ judgment. Here is an astonishing thing. You do not know where he comes from, and yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but he does listen to one who worships him and obeys his will. Never since the world began has it been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. The man who was healed and Samuel have learned the same thing. The Lord does not see as mortals see. They look on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. We make judgments based on what we see with our human eyes, what we see on the surface, on the outward appearance. It's a safety mechanism that has been built into us by God to keep us from entering into bad situations. And it's usually incredibly helpful. We see that the food is really hot, so we wait till it cools to put it in our mouth. We see that the ice is thin, and we use good judgment, and we stay on the shore. But what happens when we use those same human eyes to make judgments about each other? We all do it. We look at the customer in the dirty clothes paying for their groceries with a bridge card, and we judge them. We look at the person wearing designer clothes and driving a BMW, and we judge them. We look at the person covered in tattoos, sporting a purple mohawk hairdo using foul language, and we judge them. We judge them based on their outward appearances with our human eyes and our human biases. And we come to very human and often completely inaccurate conclusions. When we look at people with our human eyes, all we will ever really see is their outward appearance. The Lord does not see as humans see. They look on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. The true beauty of each human being, the light of Christ within the heart of each human being, lies within. The person with the dirty clothes paying for groceries with the bridge card, they've been looking for work for months. Their clothes are dirty because they spent all day doing yard work for their elderly neighbor who cannot do yard work themselves. They hate being on assistance, and they pray every night that tomorrow will be the day they find that job. The person in the designer clothes driving that BMW, they're an attorney who volunteers at multiple charitable organizations, gives generously to their church and the local schools, and does pro bono work for women attempting to get out of abusive situations. And the person covered in tattoos with the purple mohawk and the foul language, one of my new favorite heroes, Nadia Boltz-Weber, a Lutheran pastor who overcame drug and alcohol addiction and established the Church for All Saints and All Sinners in Denver, Colorado. We can't see any of this at a quick glance with our human eyes. Our human eyes can help us to judge situations, but they aren't as helpful when we use them them to judge people. Fortunately, we don't have to. Jesus said, I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see may see, and those who do see may become blind. Jesus came into this world for judgment on the cross. We, as baptized and adopted children of God, have had our blind eyes opened so that we can seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving our neighbors as ourselves. In order for us to do that, we need to look beyond someone's outward appearance. We need to look at their heart. We need to look not with human eyes, but with the eyes of Jesus. As the letter to the Ephesians says, once you were darkness, but now in the Lord you are light. Live as children of the light, for the fruit of the light is found in all that is good and right and true. Try to find out what is pleasing to the Lord. Take no part in unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. Everything exposed by the light becomes visible, for everything that becomes visible is light. We are sealed at our baptisms and marked as Christ's own forever. And the light of Christ is with us wherever we go and whatever we do, not only in the green pastures and beside the still waters, but in the presence of our enemies and in the shadow of death. Jesus guides our paths and gives us the strength we need to carry out whatever ministry God has given us to do. Our human eyes are miraculous gifts from God. They help us to see God's love and beauty in the world around us. They keep us safe by helping us to judge whether or not a situation is dangerous. But we can't use our human eyes to judge each other. Like the man born blind, Jesus has sent each of us to bathe in the waters. Not the waters of Siloam, but in the waters of baptism. Through the waters of baptism, our eyes have been opened so that we can see the light. Not the light from the sun in the sky, although it's quite beautiful today, but the light of Christ, the eternal light of God's Son. Jesus provides the lenses through which we are to look at each other. Lenses focused with love and forgiveness. Lenses that enable us to see beyond the outward appearance to the light that resides within each person's heart. We're given these lenses not to judge each other, but to love and serve and understand and forgive. May we understand the blessing that these lenses are. And may we always strive to see each other through Christ-focused glasses. Amen.
Amen.